what they have is not enough. So, alrighty. So we're getting on to the second rounds until except for the game today. We're recording this on Saturday, which is so this is the Jazz, right? The Jazz series today, Jazz Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
Every other series has gone through 3 games, so we're kind of for some series probably at the midpoint, for others not at the midpoint. I guess we can start right there. Game so far, as we mentioned before, Jazz up 2-0 against the Los Angeles Clippers. Game 3's today. But first, let's talk about what we feel about the series. We already kind of mentioned Donovan Mitchell's been, I guess, nothing short of amazing. Rudy Gobert has proven, I think he's had better playoffs. It seems like, but I think still Derek Favors has been a really good help off the bench. So Rudy's not playing as many minutes. We're seeing the impact that Bogdanovich is having, Bogdan for them. Bogdanovich has had because he wasn't there last playoffs. And even though they're missing Michael Conley, guys like Jordan Clarkson have stepped up. Joe Ingles has been really good. Like I said, Joe Ingles I know he hasn't been the predominant guard on Paul George, but he's got real estate in his head. And that's where my next point is. I'm going to 2 for the Clippers, I think. And the whole team hasn't been great, but part of that blame does go on to Paul George. He hasn't been particularly efficient. He hasn't. You can't give yourself the nickname Playoff P and be playing like this and just be lesser than in the playoffs. And I don't want to say he's playing poor. He is playing poor, but it's just number 2's been pretty good. Obviously, I think there's no debating that. But outside
But
of
even
that,
he's been disappointing.
yeah.
He only had 21 points last game, and he wasn't inefficient, but like
He had a few
shoot more.
turnovers.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure if, and I know I don't want to blame Ty Lue because it seems like he's a solid coach, but and it seems like he's really trying different things. He threw Pat Beverly out there last game, but that didn't really work. So you mentioned this before, but I'm in agreement too. Especially it'd be interesting to see what Game 3 today, and I want to get your opinion. But I think the series is over regardless. Even if I wouldn't be sorry if the Clippers win Game 3. It's a pride thing, but the fact that number 2 said like, "Oh, we gotta play, we gotta put our will out there," is like it's like he's saying that they're not playing hard enough. But it's like if you're not already playing hard enough when it's playoff time, like it's just if it's not already a second nature when it comes to then it's not. I just don't think you're a championship team. I don't think that's how you get far. So and this Jazz team seems to be playing with a sense of urgency and and confidence that the Clippers aren't, and continuity too. So I don't think the Jazz will sweep the Clippers. I imagine this will be a gentleman's sweep, a 5-game series, but at the Jazz, they're answering a lot of the criticism that a lot of people had going into the playoffs. I don't think it's any criticism on Mitchell, but can Gobert be effective on the court, or is he going to be played off the court? And will they keep, because they're one of the best 3-point shooting teams? Will they keep hitting those threes at the clip that they did in the regular season? So far, they've answered all those criticism and questions for me, at least. So, I'm not too surprised by the result. But I thought the Clippers would show at least more. The Cleveland have been kind of close, but even then, last game was they were down 20 or something at one point. So, gotta see more fight from the Clippers.
Yeah. I'm not counting them necessarily out yet because we just saw them do the same thing in Dallas. So if they win the next 2 games, it's obviously they have a shot. But it's now or never. If I agree, if Kawhi is saying we got to try harder like that, I do cut them some slack because they just came off a 7-game series, right? But it's like this is the playoffs. Everybody's doing this kind of stuff. Like you played 2 more games than the Jazz did. It shouldn't be that, and some of those games against the Mavericks, like the Clippers, once again, they didn't look like they were trying. So it shouldn't be, you're worn down excessively. Donovan Mitchell, he's coming off an injury. They don't have Mike Conley. It's like everybody's
and
dealing
then number
with
2
stuff.
and Paul George have been. I'm not sure how much they've done it this season, but they've been renowned for load management.
Yeah,
So they should be fresh.
Yeah, and the Clippers have given Kawhi everything he wants, right? Like he lives in San Diego. He can show up 10 minutes late to practice and it's fine. Like they've given him everything he wants. So I mean, he has all the rest that he could potentially ever have on any team. Because I mean, imagine he was still on the Spurs, or he's with Nick Nurse in the Raptors, or just some of these different teams. Like, they're not going to give him that stuff.
They might. I mean, but yeah, I know what you mean. They wouldn't have completely pampered him like the
Yeah,
Clippers
like
have.
the Clippers have the scenario that he has with the Clippers. I don't think any team's going to offer everything that he has there when it comes to the freedom, the control, the rest, just everything. Um, anyway, I do worry though, because the thing that I think is different between Utah and Dallas, obviously, there's the Dallas is, they were the fifth seed and Utah's the one seed, so there's just a difference in overall depth, the amount of games they won, all that kind of stuff. But I think the two big differences are, number one, Dallas didn't have a rim protector like Rudy Gobert, because a lot of the times when Kawhi started to take over, it was because he penetrated into the paint, and that's the one place that you don't want to attack Utah, is when Rudy Gobert's down there. And then on the other side, I mean, the Mavericks didn't do an amazing job at trying to penetrate the weak interior defense that the Clippers have, because Ibaka's not there. He just had season-ending surgery. He only played the first two games, I think, in the playoffs, and he hasn't played since. And they don't really want to play Zubac on the floor because he just doesn't offer a lot of offensive versatility. And then on the defensive end, I mean, he's okay, but he's just a big body out there. He's not, some stout rim protector. So they're running these small ball lineups, and Luka, he did his thing that he normally does against most teams, and he's crafty inside and all this kind of stuff. But Donovan Mitchell, as we talked about, with his ability to split double teams, to finish strong, he attacks the rim, like Dwayne Wade did, which a lot of people have thrown out the Dwayne Wade comparisons, and I wouldn't say he's Dwayne Wade yet, but I mean, the way that he plays stylistically is very similar to the way that Dwayne Wade did when he was younger. And so the speed, the burst, just the violence that he has when he attacks the rim, I mean, he's just picking them apart inside, and there's nothing they can really do, because he's dropping these 40-point games, and he's doing it efficiently. And he's not having to force up step back threes and just bombs from deep and all this crazy stuff. He can get him where he wants him. And also just, I mean, Kawhi and Paul George are two amazing perimeter defenders, right? But they're also not guards. They are forwards. So they don't necessarily deal with guys who are as fast as a
And
Donovan
shifty.
Mitchell is typically, right? So when he just has that sort of speed advantage on them, there's just a difference in defensive requirements, I would say, for a guy like Kawhi and Paul George to really effectively guard him. And so that's why we're seeing it. I mean, they're not able to stop him. They're not able to shut him down, because he can just run past him. He can do a lot of things that forwards are not necessarily doing against you. So yeah, I do worry that the Clippers are not going to be able to come back. I picked them, which is why I'm saying I'm worrying that they're not going to be able to come back from this deficit, because I think that, unlike Dallas, I just don't think they have the holes that can be easily exploited, which is why the Clippers are able to come back. Once again, I'm not ruling them out. I think they were the best 3-point shooting team in the league statistically this year. I
I
might be
thought
wrong on
so.
that.
I know they were up there, the Jazz. So
Yeah, they were in the top 5. So they have the ability to space out this floor and try to create lanes to get Rudy Gobert out of the paint and all this kind of stuff. They have the ability to do it. But once again, if effort's being called into question, if they don't have the right lineups out there, if they can't stop Donovan Mitchell, I don't know. I don't see it. I also think that both of these teams, they're coming off 3-1 chokes last year against the Nuggets. I mean, both of them did it, and obviously the Clippers get all the attention for it. But I think that the difference there is that Utah was self-motivated. They didn't have the people, criticizing them and destroying them in the media and all this stuff for the 3-1 choke. They were more disappointed in themselves and have used that as self-motivation, to where the Clippers were destroyed publicly. And I think now they're more so fighting the public narrative than they are the doubts within themselves. So yeah, I think in that respect, I got to give the edge to Utah. And the way it's looking right now, once again, I'm not counting them out. I think, because a lot of people did that with the Mavericks series. They said, "Oh, it's 2-0, it's over." But I think it's a lot steeper hill to climb against Utah than it was last series.
Yeah, and just last point, like you kind of mentioned too, and we mentioned just better system in Utah. And like I said, Jordan Clarkson. Okay, Donovan's not doing well. Jordan Clarkson can get his own shot or run the offense. Joe Ingles can also kind of run the point forward role for a couple of minutes. They have a lot more other guys that can get buckets, and I think their set plays are a little bit more creative and better too. Once again, not all centered around Donovan. So, okay, Donovan can kind of just sit in the corner of this position, maybe, run some screens for Ingles or Bogdanovich. So, just they have a lot more ways to get buckets as
And
opposed to
Rudy
just
is,
Donovan.
I mean,
Yeah,
Rudy's scoring too. Like
yeah,
he's
Rudy's
putting up like
scoring.
14 points.
And, so credit to them for that. So going on to the next, we'll go to the other Western Series. Yeah, I mean, this
It's
one,
over.
once again, shout out to resident Suns fan Kyle Wells but yeah, Suns up 3-0 right now. Last night, which was once you're recording this on Saturday, they took a critical game 3 against the not to say Utah, I guess the Denver Nuggets at Denver. I mean, I'm just looking right now. I think most of the games have been double-digit wins for the Suns too. It's not like they're just scraping by. I mean, just quickly on the Suns. I mean, I had someone ask me like, "Is it the Nuggets bad, or is this, like are the Suns really good?" I think it's a little combination of both. But I think most of the credit needs to go to the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
I mean, just to put it simply, they're peaking at the right time. Like they are peaking. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. I think the fact that they went toe to toe with the Lakers, and like you said, they didn't have 100% Chris Paul, and yes, the Lakers didn't have AD for a couple of games, but they still had LeBron, and they're the defending champs, the Lakers, and the fact that they beat them in the first round, and especially the last two games where it was just a beatdown, to say the least. I think this Phoenix team is playing with a confidence and swagger now that it's going to be tough to match, but it's fun to watch. Because I mean, Jay Crowder's he's he's back on his hot streak that he was last year. Obviously, Booker's still playing like Book, but obviously now I think this series too we're seeing a healthier Chris Paul, so he's hitting those fading away mid ranges and 3-pointers that he really couldn't hit consistently last series. And then the other thing too, I want to credit two other things is Ayton. I mean, Ayton, like we mentioned he needed to step up, and he definitely has. He's been more efficient offensively, but hey, he's crashing boards, playing to his size. And once again, yes, still not an amazing defender, but he's solid. He's not a true liability. So I shout out to him for that because I wasn't sure if he could do that. If I had gun in my head, I probably, if he had asked me before this playoffs, I would have said no, he wouldn't be able to do that. So he's proved me wrong there. And then, like we mentioned a couple times, I mean, guys like Cameron Payne coming off the bench, huge surprise there. He's been playing really well. I mean, it shouldn't be too much surprise. He was a former first-round pick, but the fact that, I could safely say, I think everyone felt like he was a bust. So the fact that the journey he's gone through, bounced around a couple of teams, and he went to play in China for a hot minute, and then to come back and ball out the way he has in the playoffs, especially when they needed him last series. But even this series has been pretty good. That's been key to their run as well. And then also, this last point, just they can win in different ways. They can put out another big if teams want to play big. They can put out Saric or Kaminsky a little bit more. But regardless, and then also they can play small though. They could play. Ayton can survive on small ball, and they have Crowder, Mikal Bridges, who also underrated player, been perfect for them for the role that they've asked him. And also, sorry, one more, Cam Johnson, someone who I criticized. I didn't think that was a great pick. But he's proven to be, especially, obviously he's a good shooter. That's what everyone expected him to be coming out. But he's been surprisingly better on defense than I thought he was. So yeah, and then as for the Jazz, not the Jazz, the Nuggets, wrong, small market team. For the Nuggets, it's just we're seeing no Jamal Murray. They're missing Jamal Murray, so someone to make these guards or another playmaker on offense. And not that Jokic isn't getting the job done. I mean, he put 30 points, 20 boards, like 10 assists last night. Still wasn't enough. It's just that Michael Porter Jr., he stepped up, but we're starting to see maybe his first full season, he's starting to wear down. And then, and the Paul Millsap signing is not looking great because remember they kind of basically chose to sign Millsap over Jeremy Grant. And I think he only played 6 minutes last night. So, it's just unfortunately Denver's, I think, hit the proverbial wall. And Also, on top of that, the Phoenix Suns are just playing amazing. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I said it before the series. I felt like they were going to really miss Jamal Murray in this one, and I think they have because Phoenix, with Jay Crowder, with Mikal Bridges, the defensive like forwards they have, they can combat a guy like Michael Porter Jr. And stop, you know, just anything that the Nuggets currently throw at them, except for Jokic. And we've seen that's exactly how it's gone. Jokic has dominated, but even the comments that Dame made about how this is a team who has their backup point guard and their backup shooting guard. They don't have their starters there, and Phoenix is taking advantage of that. They're dominating at both guard spots. Chris Paul, he put up like 15 assists in game 2. Like he's just having whatever he wants. Devin Booker, he's putting up a lot of points, doing the same thing. And then so they're winning at 4 of the 5 spots on the court, and when that's happening, they're going to win the game. And so the Nuggets, they're lacking the same firepower, defensive versatility that they had last year. I mean, I haven't heard anything about Aaron Gordon really this series.
He's been a little disappointing, to be fair.
Yeah, he hasn't really done a whole lot. Michael Porter Jr., obviously, like you said, he sort of hasn't had the same spark that he did in that first series against Portland. So it's really just been Jokic, and it does suck that he just receives the MVP award in a series where they're just getting smoked. Poor timing, I guess, but yeah, I think the way that Phoenix won that first series against the defending champ Lakers, who everyone had picked to beat them, who everyone had picked to still represent the West. I think they have a sort of belief that they can win this thing, that they can go all the way. That maybe they didn't have necessarily going into the playoffs, but the way that they won and in the fashion they did, like you said, in those last 2 games, there's just a confidence that they're carrying that I think, I don't know. I mean, I don't know who's going to win that Jazz, Clippers series. And if it's the Jazz Suns, it's going to be a crazy matchup of seeing Mitchell versus Booker and just the 2 offensive
and they might get
teams
Conley
just going
back,
at
so
it.
that backcourt against Mitchell, Conley versus Booker,
Yeah, and then
CP3.
Gobert and Ayton. That'd be a crazy matchup. But I don't know. I the way the Suns right now, I could see them going all the way to the finals.
Yeah, I could too. I know we said before there's no clear powerhouse in the West, but I think we're starting to see that these 2 teams, and we'll see what's going to happen in Game 3 here with the Jazz and Clippers. But right now, it's looking like these 2 teams have stepped up to be. I mean, and it shouldn't be a surprise they're the 1 and 2 seed, but I think there were a lot of doubters, including us, or especially me, maybe saying maybe they weren't exactly the 2 best teams in the West. I think right now they're showing no, they are the 2 best teams in the West. So
I doubted the Jazz. So
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people did. So we're not alone in that. But